Hello and welcome back to another episode of What Gets Captured on Film. My name is Dylan Paulson. I am your host, and this is a show all about movies and movie news. This is episode 10. Woo! Big milestone. Episode 10 of What Gets Captured on Film. So the idea behind the show, if you're new here, is that I'll just give you the rundown of the biggest news stories and give my opinions on it. And yeah. That's pretty much it. And I'll tell you what I've been watching and what's coming new to theaters this week. And then I will send you on your way, enlightened with knowledge that I am bestowing upon you. So, episode 10, here we go into the news. The news this week is from December 1st through December 7th. I am recording this on the evening of December 7th, and it will go live. Episodes always go live on Wednesdays, 9 a.m. on your podcast feed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and then a YouTube show will go live, audio only, of course, but YouTube will go live on Wednesdays at noon. I think the channel's called One Epic Salad off the top of my head, but show is called What Gets Captured on Film. Spread the word if you enjoy it. Here we go. So some smaller, I call them non-essential stories, but every story is essential. Some smaller stories I want to get into is how the box office looked last week. So I am using boxofficemojo.com, which tracks gross from, and it gives you the theater numbers too. So it gives you a per theater number of how much the movie made, and it gives you the ranks of the films in the order of how much they grossed. So from this past weekend, December 3rd, the weekend of December 3rd, here are the movies in order and their respective grosses. Disney's Encanto with $12.7 million, Ghostbusters Afterlife with $10.4 million, House of Gucci with $6.8 million, Christmas with The Chosen, The Messengers with $4.1 million, and Eternals. That's the Marvel's Eternals, right? Yeah. Eternals with $4.1 million. Sorry, 3.9? That's not... No, 4.1. It's been updated since I wrote the story. So 3.9. Yeah, it was 3.9 yesterday, but it's 4.9 as of right now. So there you go. So Disney, obviously. So it's, kind of small week. There was nothing big premiering last week, and it was kind of post-holiday. Ghostbusters still up there. Disney's Encanto still pretty high up. House of Gucci holding on. Eternals, and then lower down on the list, we have some Resident Evil, Clifford the Big Red Dog. Dune is still up on the list, $1.8 million last week. King Richard with $1.2 million. Venom is still up there, $1 million. No Time to Die, $0.9 million. And then we get into these movies that are really barely making any money at all. So, very interesting. Just wanted to bring that up. I think I'm going to make that a weekly thing. We'll just go over, since I record this at the start of the week and I do the news for the previous week, ostensibly. That's what I'm going to do is just wrap up the previous weekend's box office. So there it is. It's wrapped up for you. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was Deadline has this, it's a movie festival, but it's specifically just for news and panels and talk shows. It's called Deadline Contenders Film, New York. There's a lot of interviews, panels, whatever, but not so much news. They have a lot of panels with big stars, A-list people, and they cover movies such as Being the Ricardos, Don't Look Up, No Time to Die, Spencer, King Richard, and plenty of others. Plenty of other big, heavy-hitting movies. So if you're interested in those, feel free to, watch them, read about them, etc. It's all on Deadline's website. The only reason I am bringing it up is to say that normally if something was released in the week that, like, Aaron Sorkin spoke about this, at a show or something, I would probably talk about it or want to talk about it at some point in this show. But because there's so much there, I can't really pick and choose, my favorites or what, it's just not worth it. So I'm just going to instead just talk about none of it. And if any big stories, like pieces of news, want to trickle through from those panels, then they will, and we'll talk about them in the weeks forthcoming. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're interested, feel free to watch them or read about them, etc. But to be honest, I don't think there's a lot of news, more just like covering the movies that are coming out or have just come out. Right, like No Time to Die. Like, I'm not going to talk about No Time to Die. Like, there's no reason for me to. That movie came out like 3 weeks ago. There's no story there, But if you're interested in what it was like on set, et cetera, yada yada, what it was like marketing the movie due to COVID, it got pushed back a year and a half, 2 years. So it's all there. It's all there for you. So okay. Next thing, I found this pretty interesting. Hopefully you will too, because I'm going to talk about it now. Is the WGA released a ranked list, and they're calling it the 101 greatest screenplays of the 21st century so far. And it was voted upon by Writers Guild professionals. And I'm going to read to you the top 25 or so screenplays ranked by industry professionals, because I find it very interesting. Of the 21st century. So this is modern stuff, right? And then I'll tell you if I, have to disagree with anything or, whatever. I'll tell you. So number one, and this is original screenplays and adapted screenplays. So number one is Get Out. Number two, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. 3, Social Network. 4, Parasite. 5, No Country for Old Men. 6, Moonlight. 7, There Will Be Blood. 8, Inglourious Bastards. 9, Almost Famous. 10, Memento. 11, Adaptation. 12, Bridesmaids. Very interesting. 13, Brokeback Mountain. 14, The Royal Tenenbaums. 15, Sideways. 16, Lady Bird. 17, Her. 18, Children of Men. 19, Lost in Translation. 20, Michael Clayton. 21, Little Miss Sunshine. 22, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 23, Promising Young Woman. 24, Juno. 25, The Grand Budapest Hotel. So you can go ahead and, look at the rest of the list. There's a lot of good stuff on here. Just off the top of my head, just reading through the rest of this list, Pan's Labyrinth is low. Before Sunset is low. Boyhood is critically low. Zodiac is low. Mulholland Drive is not even on here, I don't think. Mulholland Drive is critically low. It's 41. So let me just look at these top 5 again. Get Out, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Social Network, Parasite, No Country for Old Men. These scripts are incredible, I'll say. I will, absolutely. But is Get Out the best script? Is it the best script, the best screenplay of 2020? Of the 21st century so far? I don't necessarily think so. I think number 3, The Social Network, is better. I think The Social Network probably should be number 1. That is an incredible script. And Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind could have won number 1 as well. Parasite's awesome. I mean, the way Parasite is written is so unique. But, all of these are really unique. Not to say that Get Out, doesn't deserve to be number 1. In my own opinion, just think that there are other screenplays that are more, I hate using the word unique over and over again, are more individualistic. But, who am I? I'm no industry professional. I'm just a guy that took a couple screenwriting classes one time and wants to start a podcast. But, there you go. Not wants to start a podcast. I did start a podcast, and you're listening to it. Okay, so that was all I wanted to talk about before I talk about what I'm watching this week. So let me just talk about that. I didn't watch a single movie this week, sorry to say, but that will definitely significantly cut down the length of this episode for you. So you're welcome on that front already. But yeah, no, I didn't watch anything. Any movies, I'll say. So I watched a little bit. I'm still watching Seinfeld, still love it. There's nothing really that I want to say about it because so much has already been said and written, and there's not much I can contribute to the conversation other than I love the show. So there it is. I love the show. And as far as, but the next thing I'm watching is Ozark. As far as that goes, I'm partway through season 2, and I do have a few things that I want to say about the show. Is that season 2 is, theoretically much more interesting than season 1. You have way more characters involved. There are way more parties involved. You have the Kansas City mob. You have the gaming commission. You have, the attempts at making a casino or building a casino. You have more involvement with the Snells. There's a lot going on. Oh, the lawyer from the, her name's Helen, the blonde woman. That's the lawyer for the Navarro cartel. It's all really, really interesting stuff and a lot to weave through. But I can't help the feeling that I think season 1 is more interesting. I think, and I don't know why. I think it might be the pace. It might be, the pace of season 1 is quick. Everything kind of moves really quick, and there's like kind of this huge uphill battle that we're going up the whole time. And season 2 doesn't have that. There's something about it, and I can't really put my finger on it. I'm going to spoil part of it right here. I'm spoiling, I think, season 2, episode 4 or so of Ozark. So avert your ears or skip ahead like 2 minutes or so. But in this episode, the FBI seizes the house of Marty Byrde. And that's how the episode ends. And then in the next episode, it's like almost that entire tension is broken. And I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on it, but the end of that episode comes and you're like, oh shit, I gotta watch this next episode. And the next episode starts and that tension is broken for some reason. I don't know what it is. I'll report back on this as I continue watching the show. Because I love the show. I still love it. I think season 2 is great even. It's great TV, but it's no season 1. I mean, season 1 is airtight. Really, really great stuff. Season 2 is up there, but in a comparison, I think season 2 is not as good. And I think I remember season 3 feeling the same way, but we'll see as I go back through it. This is the second time I've seen all of this. I've seen season 1, I think 3 or 4 times, but this is the second time I've seen seasons 2 and 3. So, that's all that I have to really say about that. And I'll report more on that, get back to you on that in the coming weeks as I continue through the show. So let's get through some of the biggest news stories. Number 1, just off the top, I just wanted to say before I get into the story that I know I said that I wouldn't report anymore on the tragic incident that happened on the set of Rust involving Alec Baldwin and causing the death of Helena Hutchins. But Alec Baldwin gave his first public long-form interview since the event. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And then I think I'm going to stop talking about it until something else comes. The reason that I wanted to stop talking about this is that when you have people like George Clooney and Ridley Scott and, all these other people that think they have something to contribute to the conversation and, saying like, oh, I every time I'm on set with a fake gun, I always check the fake gun. I always interrogate my armorer. If I'm a producer on a movie, I do X, Y, Z. It doesn't fucking matter. Helena Hutchins is dead. It doesn't matter. You want to point the blame, you want to point, fingers here and there, be a police officer. Join the FBI, get involved in the case. But if you just want to sit in a podcast in your little glass house on your high horse, then fuck off and you can do it. And news stories are reporting on this. George Clooney says this, Ridley Scott says this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't contribute anything to the conversation. But Alec Baldwin does have something to contribute to the conversation because he was there. And that's why I want to talk about this story again. And I I don't want to be the type of person to contribute more to this negative feedback loop of passing the buck and blaming people and contributing nothing. It's a shame what happened to Helena Hutchins. And it's a shame that her family has to live with this. But ultimately, what I think happened, what we know at the moment, until the FBI releases their, the results of their investigation, is that this was an accident. Period. End of discussion. Well, I guess it's not period. I guess it's ellipsis. End of discussion for now until the FBI releases. I'll just read the story. Number 1. Alec Baldwin has broken his silence about the shooting incident on the set of the Western Rust that left 1 dead and 1 injured. Helena Hutchins, up-and-coming cinematographer, was killed when a gun was discharged by Alec Baldwin during a filming of the scene. The director, Joel Souza, was injured and quickly rushed to the hospital. He has since recovered. This incident has since garnered lots of negative press toward Baldwin, some stories attempting to slander him as a murderer, and negative press toward Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the film's amateur armorer. Baldwin spoke to ABC's George Stephanopoulos in an exclusive interview. Over the course of the roughly 30-minute interview, Alec Baldwin speaks of his role as a producer on the film, the various interactions he had with Hutchins and Souza prior to the incident, and how Russ was a labor of love. The big piece of information from this interview, however, is that Baldwin never pulled the trigger. The pistol hammer was cocked and the gun completely discharged, according to Baldwin. The first AD, assistant director, the first AD corroborated Baldwin's story through his attorney, claiming it to be correct. I implore everyone to watch the full interview of Baldwin before making their own judgment on him as a person, but ultimately we'll have to wait for the sheriff's department and the DA to take action within a few months. It should also be noted that Hutchins' family already stated that they will not be filing a wrongful death lawsuit against Baldwin. Gutierrez-Reed has remained silent other than a statement from her attorney a few weeks ago claiming her innocence in the situation. Whether that is legally true remains to be seen. I'll continue to update the audience on this story as it progresses. So, like I said before I went into the story, I don't think that I want to contribute anything more to this negative feedback loop. I think that blaming Alec Baldwin for anything in this incident is bullshit. And I could be wrong. But if you have ever been on a movie set, or if you have ever, been in front of a professional that tells you what to do in a situation where you don't know what, you're uneducated. Like, say you're going mountain climbing. You trust the belay team, right? Say you are shooting archery. You trust the archer, right? That's all I'm saying. So, if you really care, watch Alec Baldwin's interview. If you don't care, that's fine. Because I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of talking about Alec Baldwin. I'm tired of talking about anything other than Helena Hutchins and her family. Because that is ultimately what happened. Is that someone died from this. And I don't think it was any one person's fault. It was a tragic, tragic accident. Unless, the sheriff's department says otherwise. But that's all I really have to say. I don't even know what people are talking about in this argument against Alec Baldwin anymore. I don't even know why people are angry at him. Whatever. I'm over it. Number 2, Sony Pictures shared a first look via their official YouTube channel of an upcoming sequel to their mega popular Spider-Verse movie from 2018. The new film is titled Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and will see the return of various cast members from the first film, including Shameik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Issa Rae, Oscar Isaac, and Jake Johnson. The film's animation and design will be done by the same studio that did the first film, Sony's own Sony Pictures Imageworks. The film is about, quote, Miles Morales returns for the next chapter of the Oscar-winning Spider-Verse saga, an epic adventure that will transport Brooklyn's full-time, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man across the multiverse to join forces with Gwen Stacy and a new team of Spider people to face off with a villain more powerful than anything they have ever encountered, end quote. The new film will be directed by Bob Paraschetti, Peter Ramsey, Rodney Rothman, none of whom directed the first film, and will be written by returning writer Phil Lord, who will be joined by new writers Christopher Miller and Dave Callahan. While it may at first seem disappointing that the original directors aren't returning for the new film, it should be noted that the first film was directed by those who had their own directorial debuts, indicating that there is plenty of talent to be found within Sony ImageWorks. Sorry, that was a little confusing. I just meant that the people that directed the original Into the Spider-Verse, that was their directorial debut. So there's a lot of talent elsewhere in the studio. So that's what I meant to say. That was a little confusing. Continuing the story. Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 is set to be released exclusively in theaters on October 7th, 2022, and Part 2, which is being worked on simultaneously, is slated for 2023. Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee and has been one of Marvel's tentpole superheroes, especially since the inception of him as a movie character, beginning with Sam Raimi's 2001 film Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man, big few years for Spider-Man, but I guess it's just a big few years for Marvel because these characters are just never going away, are they? But, beside the point of, being cautious that not to saturate the market with so much of one character. We have a TV show and we have, the PlayStation games, the Spider-Man PlayStation games, and we have the live action movies, and now we have this series that's, turning into a trilogy. I just worry about the saturation of all of this. But, that being said, there's nothing that of all of those things that I mentioned just then that really stands out as being overtly bad. So, I guess they're milking the cow for all it's worth. But yeah, I haven't watched this yet. I'll watch it right now and give you my thoughts. I will be right back. So yeah, that looked pretty cool. What we've got here is like a first look is what it's being marketed as. And it kind of gives, a peek at, one scene. There's like kind of two scenes. There's like a scene between Miles and Gwen, and then there's a scene about Miles kind of falling his way into a fight of some sort in some sort of environment that is foreign to us as viewers. I gotta say, this has been said 1,000 times, but this art style is beautiful. I think it won the Oscar for Best Animated Film or something. Very well deserved. The first movie, very well deserved. It's such an interesting, beautiful art style. It looks like a comic book, a colored comic book, just jumps out of the page. Just this bright, full colors. It's like almost undercranked. It's so interesting and so unique. I feel like I'm saying that word a lot, but it's awesome. I'm really intrigued to see what comes out of this. But the only thing that I have to say about this trailer is that I hope that the story is interesting, and I hope that the emotional connection that the audience gets to Miles and to the rest of the characters is as poignant as it was in the first movie. There was a real, true emotional investment by the end of that movie that was significant. So I hope that they can recapture that again and then again in the third one, and it's not just we won an Oscar, here's another movie, and here's more characters and blah blah blah. That's fine if you do all that, but at the end of the day, I think the purpose of movies is to give the audience some sort of emotional investment, and the first movie did that to a T beautifully. So I hope that they can do that again. There is a returning writer here, Phil Lord, so I hope that means good news. But yeah, not much to say about it. It comes out October 7th, 2022. Long ways out, so we're gonna get trickles of more information as the years go on, or as the months go on, I should say. So that's it. Okay, next story, number 3. HBO Max released a new trailer this week for The Matrix Resurrections. The highly anticipated 4th film in the Matrix series brings back the 2 main characters from the original trilogy, Neo and Trinity, with returning actors Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, respectively. Notably absent from the cast, however, are Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus and Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith, although the trailer shows some ambiguity there with a few newer characters. The film is written by David Mitchell, Alexander Heeman, and Lena Wachowski, and is directed by Lena Wachowski, who, along with her sister Lily Wachowski, pioneered the original trilogy, beginning in 1999, I think. The Matrix Resurrections is slated for theaters on December 22nd, 2021, a few short weeks away. So this is definitely going to be the last trailer that we see before the movie. And it seems like, I haven't watched it yet, but it seems like from what I saw written on, some news outlets and what I saw the comments on the YouTube video that it seems like this is a story-heavy trailer. So The Matrix was something that I was kind of grew up on in a sense of it gave me a lot of ideas about what a good sci-fi movie could be and what a trilogy could be. It was one of the first movies I owned on Blu-ray, so I watched it a lot. It was like one of the only movies that I had that was in HD, so I would just watch it all the time. I watched the trilogy a bunch. I'm hoping to watch the trilogy again before I see the fourth one, hopefully in theaters. But that remains to be seen. So, I'm going to pause real quick and I'll watch the trailer and get right back to you. That was a really good trailer, and I didn't think that it would be possible for me to get excited about another Matrix movie, considering the sequels left such a bad taste in my mouth. But it seems really cool, and it seems like there is a real, true reason why, to come back to the series. It seems like there's a good emotional connection there. It seems like it seems warranted after so many years. It seems like, who is it? Lena Wachowski? Yeah, Lena Wachowski had this, chip on her shoulder of how bad the sequels were and wanted to turn around and get it right. And in the wake of rebooting thousands of series and movies and television and blah, 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 they finally can. And they finally have the budget. And Keanu Reeves has only gotten better with acting as he's gotten older. So I'm intrigued. Most definitely. It's exciting. But my hope is that... Okay, well, first of all, actually, no. My hope is that the movie... the sequels, Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, were... they got so... I don't know. There's not something that... A word that I can... It's not incongruous, but it's like complicated. There was another word that I was thinking of for complicated, but there's just the story just like doesn't make any sense, and it's like, oh, what are we here? What are we doing here? Who are these characters? They just come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, it's explained in the comic books, it's explained in this anime. It's just not in the movie, and it was just too much to follow. So I hope that this movie takes a step back a little bit and makes it easier for audiences to get it, because the second movie, had that feeling to it that was like, oh wow, this is a lot to handle. There's a lot of moving pieces in this movie that's very difficult to follow. And then the third movie didn't get the chance to respond to that valid criticism because the two movies were filmed at the same time. So I hope that we finally have a lesson learned, right? We finally have something that Lena Wachowski can take away from those two previous movies and, say it is warranted why we can come back to this, and it won't be all, complicated storylines. There is something here to tell. There is a story more that can be told here. What makes me mad is that Lawrence Fishburne is not in the movie. He's not in the cast of the movie. There's just a different black guy that trains Neo now. It seems like from the trailer, like I mentioned in the story too, it seems like there's a story-based reason for this. Why Lawrence Fishburne isn't there and why there's this other white guy that is replacing Hugo Weaving. But Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving are such strong actors that whoever the replacements are going to be, I feel bad for, because there's no possible way they can live up to the caliber of those two people. And I am always all for giving actors a chance, but giving, new actors a chance. But, you get back Keanu Reeves, you get back Carrie-Anne Moss. Why even? If you wanted to do this thematic thing with the characters, why not just replace everyone? Because people love Keanu Reeves. That's the answer. And people are going to go watch a movie that has The Matrix and Keanu Reeves in it and Lena Wachowski. So that's probably the answer. But, maybe there's a story reason for all this. So, and Neo's also the one. So that's a spoiler for the end of the first movie, I think. But I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, that's it. That's that. So that's all the trailers I'm going to watch this week. But I have a few more news stories here. Number 4, Netflix released a trailer this week for upcoming World War II thriller Munich, Edge of War. The film is, quote, based on the international bestseller by Robert Harris. It is autumn 1938, and Europe stands on the brink of war. Adolf Hitler is preparing to invade Czechoslovakia, and Neville Chamberlain's government desperately seeks a peaceful solution. With the pressure building, Hugh Legat, British civil servant, and Paul von Hartmann, German diplomat, travel to Munich for the emergency conference. Yeah. As negotiations begin, the two old friends find themselves at the center of a web of political subterfuge and very real danger. With the whole world watching, can war be averted, and if so, at what cost? End quote. The film is directed by Christian Skouwo. That's a tough one. Yeah. It's directed by a man named, his first name is Christian S., who has very few credits to his name, but who has a few credits to his name, but nothing significantly notable, and is adapted by Robert Harris. Oh no, Robert Harris is the writer who is based on. It was written by a writer. It's directed by a man. Who cares? The film stars Jeremy Irons, Jessica Brown Finley, and George McKay, and will be released in theaters on January 7th and on Netflix January 21st. Wanted to bring that up in case anyone wanted to check that out. And next, number 5, this is an interesting one. Foo Fighters released a sneak peek for their upcoming movie this week. The upcoming horror film Studio 666 stars members of the band, including Dave Grohl, Taylor Hawkins, Nate Mendel, Pat Smear, Chris Shiflett, and Rami Jaffe, as well as other stars such as Whitney Cummings, Leslie Grossman, and Will Forte. The film is based on a story by Dave Grohl and will be written by Jeff Bueller and Rebecca Hughes and will be directed by B.J. McDonnell. The movie is about, quote, legendary rock band Foo Fighters move into an Encino mansion steeped in grisly rock and roll history to record their much-anticipated 10th album, end quote. The film is set for release on February 22nd, 2022. I took a step back when I saw this because I was like, what? But no, it's real. The Foo Fighters are producing and starring in a movie about themselves recording an album in a haunted house. That is real. That is happening. It's coming in February. Isn't that interesting? So my initial thought was like, oh, why not just wait to release it in October? But, February is a good place to watch a movie, and October is typically overcrowded by shitty horror movies. So this could be good for them to get a little extra publicity around an album that I think is probably going to come out around the same time. I don't know. I don't explicitly follow the Foo Fighters, but, Dave Grohl is a legendary drummer, I think, right? Me not even knowing that just goes to show how little I know. Singer, songwriter, record producer, documentary filmmaker. Instruments: vocal, guitar, bass, piano, drums. So I don't know. I thought he was the drummer for Nirvana, but I could be wrong. Who knows? I don't know anything. I know movies, and that's why I'm here recording this podcast for you, listener. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. The trailer, I watched it yesterday. It was like a little 40-second thing. It's interesting. It definitely has a a vibe to it. And I think that this is what this going to happen here is this is going to be a cult classic. I think this is an instant cult classic film. Movies that star musicians like this are typically cult movies. They will become them over time. The reason why I don't think it's going to gain a larger audience is just because you have a movie centered around Foo Fighters. I'm not a big fan of Foo Fighters. A lot of people probably aren't fans of Foo Fighters, even though a lot of people like them, right? They sell millions of records. They're one of the most popular, well-regarded bands of today. But, it's like they're making a movie that has an established IP that is like 20 years old, right? It's like you're making another movie in this series that already has this huge lineage that I am unfamiliar with. So, but I don't know. It could be interesting. So I think what probably they wanted to do is have like the movie soundtrack tie-in. So I imagine that's coming as well, but I don't know for certain. So that's it. I thought that was really interesting. If you're a Foo Fighters fan, check that out. Trailer was interesting, to say the least. All right, here's the wrap up. Smaller news stories that don't deserve the time. No, they deserve time, I guess. Whoever, I don't care. Tom Holland announced to the Associated Press that he will play iconic actor, singer, dancer Fred Astaire in an upcoming unannounced film for Sony. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Brad Pitt is attached to star in an unannounced racing film from Joseph Kosinski, Jerry Bruckheimer, and Aaron Kruger. Hollywood Reporter reports that Ron Clements and John Musker, in charge of Disney animated pictures such as Aladdin and Little Mermaid, are attached to adapt DC IP The Metal Men for Warner Animation. Deadline reports that Scarlett Johansson has exited Chris Evans' starring film Ghosted for Apple, and Ana de Armas has taken her place. Sources say the decision was made due to scheduling conflicts. I imagine in the coming years we'll hear if that's actually true. Signature Films announced an upcoming comedy, The Estate, from Dean Craig, and will star Toni Collette, Anna Faris, and Thomas Hayden Church. In a press release, Awkwafina was announced to join Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult in an upcoming monster movie, Renfield. Niels Jewell, a frequent collaborator of Martin Scorsese, has announced his plan to fully fund a film using NFTs. Ubisoft's Film and Television Division announced a new senior director for the studio, Jordan Cohen. Deadline reports that upcoming film Cleopatra sees director Patty Jenkins move into producing role as Carrie Skoglund from Falcon and the Winter Soldier becomes the new director. Found that interesting. Patty Jenkins stepping down as director. That could have been a story. That could have been a full story, but I didn't have much to say about it. Deadline reports that Antoine Fuqua's upcoming film for Apple adds Amani Pullman, a relatively unknown actress. Deadline reports that Sarah Snook will play Elizabeth Moss in upcoming Oz movie Run Rabbit Run. Will replace Elizabeth Moss. Apple has confirmed long in the works film Bad Blood is real and will follow Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes and will star Jennifer Lawrence, directed by Adam McKay. Francis Ford Coppola announced he will become executive producer of Haitian Oscar submission film Freda. Deadline reports that Dave Bautista will star in M. Night Shyamalan's next film, Knock at the Cabin. Deadline reports that Destin Daniel Cretton, director of Shang-Chi, has signed a multi-picture deal with Marvel Studios and will return to direct the Shang-Chi sequel. Hollywood Reporter reports that Universal's live-action CG hybrid comedy called Strays will star Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx, and Will Forte. And that is all the news. Now, what's coming to theaters this weekend? You might ask. Well, I'll tell you. Not much, but there are, if you, check your local theater, there are some small, there's a limited release for West Side Story, which is the first one. An adaptation of the 1957 musical West Side Story explores forbidden love and the rivalry between the Jets and the Sharks, two teenage street gangs of different ethnic backgrounds, directed by Steven Spielberg, stars Ansel Elgort, Rachel Zegler, Ariana DeBose, David Alvarez and others. But I know that movie doesn't come out for another 2 weeks or so. But check your local theater. You might have a special showing. And what else is here? Agnes. Rumors of demonic possession at a religious convent prompts a church investigation into the strange goings-on amongst its nuns. A disaffected priest and his neophyte are confronted with temptation, bloodshed, and a crisis of faith. Directed by Mickey Reese, starring Molly C. Quinn, Sean Gunn, Chris Sullivan, and Haley McFarland. And France. A celebrity journalist juggling her busy career and personal life has her life overturned by a freak car accident. Directed by Bruno Dumont, starring Leah Seydoux, Blanche Gardin, Benjamin Biolay, and Emmanuel Arioli. And that is everything that's coming to theaters this week. So if you're going to see a movie this week, go see something that's already out. Don't go see something that is coming out this week unless you have West Side Story at your local theater. But I doubt you will, to be honest. And that is it for the show. And I didn't prepare anything to close the show with, so that was it. What an anticlimactic end. And here I am, still talking away. Short show this week. I imagine it will be, as there's less news to talk about. The time that I started the show, which was in the mid to late summer, that's usually the busiest time. And that's when I had shows that were consistently an hour long. And this is a little shorter. So, not a lot of news to talk about, not a lot of trailers to watch. There's just less to talk about. But there's a lot of movies that are going to come out very soon. So, and Oscar season's about to pick up too. So, yeah, I'm deciding what I'm going to do over the holidays in regard to episodes and news, because there's just going to be so little. But yeah, you will get an episode every week. But whether or not it'll just be a short episode because there will be less news, or I'm going to do something a little special like my top movies of the year or something. I don't know. I'll think about it. But keep it tuned to What Gets Captured on Film, which is what this show is that you've been listening to. This was episode 10. My name is Dylan Paulson, and spread the word if you like the show. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you. Goodbye. Have a good week. Be safe. I love you, listener.